not intentionally trying to intrude on matters that should not be on the public record, so I will respect your resistance to answer a question, all right? But is Mr. Flynn still cooperating with and providing assistance to the government? Prosecutor Brandon Van Grack: Your Honor, it remains a possibility that General Flynn is continuing to cooperate with the government at this time. The judge says, all right, it's a possibility. Mr. Van Grack: Yes, Your Honor. The judge: More often than not, the court will wait until the government says this person is finished, this person has testified in the grand jury, or there have been pleas of guilty entered. There's nothing else he can do to help us. But in this case, there's still a likelihood that he could help, correct? The prosecutor then says, yes, but, quote, the defendant has provided the vast majority of cooperation that could be considered. So this is the judge being like, tell me he's not at the end of cooperating. Tell me he's got something else that he can tell you. He's got something else that he can give you, because that's the cooperation that he's given you thus far is what I'm supposed to balance against what I can see about his bad behavior. If he's not done, you might want to wait to have him sentenced until after he's totally done, because he's going to need every iota of his cooperation to balance out how I view his crimes. And at this point, we get some news, because the prosecutors from Mueller's office, they bring up to the judge, unprompted, the case that we learned about yesterday, and we had wondered if this was going to come up in Flynn's sentencing today. This is the case, just unsealed yesterday, where Flynn's longtime business partner was charged with multiple felonies. This is somebody who was also a Trump transition official. He was the vice chairman of Flynn's intelligence group, and he was charged yesterday with being part of a scheme, along with Mike Flynn, person A in that indictment. He's charged with being part of a scheme, basically, to operate secretly in this country as paid foreign agents of the government of Turkey, without ever disclosing. So the prosecutors from Mueller's office bring that up to the judge today, as if that should help Flynn even more. Look, he helped us get that indictment too. He's been super helpful. He's a great cooperator. But the judge immediately boomerangs that back at them by saying, basically, yeah, I see how he helped you get that indictment filed, but Flynn participated in the crime that is laid out in that indictment too. I mean, the judge says, you know, looking at the evidence of what Flynn himself did in that alleged crime, you could have charged him for that. You could have locked him up for that too, right? Here's how it goes. Prosecutor Brandon Van Grack: Quote, we'd like to bring to the court's attention that we just had an indictment unsealed in the Eastern District of Virginia, charging Bijan Kian and Akeem Altakin with various violations. And the defendant provided substantial assistance to the attorneys in the Eastern District of Virginia in obtaining that charging document. The judge: all right, could the defendant have been indicted in that indictment? Could he have been charged in that indictment? Prosecutor Brandon Van Grack: and, Your Honor, the answer is yes. The judge says, your answer is he could have been charged in that indictment, Mr. Van Grack. Yes, Your Honor. They then talk about how many years in prison Mike Flynn could have received just for that crime if he had been charged and convicted in that case that was unsealed yesterday in Virginia. The judge concludes that discussion by saying, quote, the exposure for Flynn would have been grave then. Exposure to Mr. Flynn would have been significant had he been indicted, meaning he could have potentially received many years in prison. Mr. Van Grack, the prosecutor, says, yes, Your Honor. So that is a remarkable moment. That's the prosecutors trying to help Flynn out here. I mean, they're prosecuting Flynn, but they're trying to help him out. They're telling the judge, hey, he helped us out in this other case. And the judge, in response, makes the prosecutors spell out how guilty Flynn might have been in that felony criminal case, too.